The sun dipped below the horizon of Kareth 7, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. Dust swirled in the fading light as the team of interstellar archaeologists, led by Dr. Ilara Voss, gathered around the remnants of what once appeared to be a grand structure. Ancient stonework, partially buried under centuries of debris, hinted at a civilization long forgotten. "Adjust the scanner, Cal," Ilara called to her second-in-command, a sharp-eyed technician with a knack for detail. As Cal complied, the scanner emitted a soft hum, sweeping over the ruins and picking up faint energy signatures. "What do you see?" "Nothing concrete yet, but there's definitely something down there," he replied, his brow furrowing in concentration. "The readings are unusual, almost like they're fluctuating." The team's excitement grew as they uncovered more fragments, pottery, tools, and what appeared to be ceremonial masks, each piece telling a story of a life once lived. Ilara's heart raced. The artifacts suggested a culture rich in tradition, yet it was the device they had yet to find that held the promise of groundbreaking revelations. Hours passed as they meticulously excavated, their torches flickering against the encroaching darkness. Just as fatigue began to set in, Cal let out a gasp. "I think I've found it." He pointed toward a stone slab that seemed slightly ajar. With Ilara's encouragement, the team gathered around, digging frantically until the glow of a strange device emerged from the dust. It was an intricate contraption, resembling a blend of crystal and metal, with a series of glyphs etched into its surface. The device pulsed softly, casting an ethereal light that illuminated their faces. "What in the galaxy is this?" whispered Mira, a young linguist with a passion for ancient languages. "Let's get it back to the ship," Ilara ordered, her mind racing with possibilities. "We need to analyze it further. This could be the key to understanding who they were." As the team carefully transported the device to their ship, they felt a mixture of trepidation and excitement. Once inside, the dim lights of the vessel flickered on, bathing the small command center in a sterile glow. Cal quickly set to work connecting the device to the ship's mainframe, his fingers flying over the control panel. "Stand by for activation," he announced, the anticipation palpable in the air. "Here goes nothing." With a deep breath, he pressed a button. The room filled with a resonant hum, and the device began to whir. Holographic projections burst forth, cascading images of human history across the walls, cities, wars, art, and moments of triumph and despair. The team stood transfixed, their skepticism dissolving into awe. Ilara watched as scenes played out before them. Bustling markets filled with people, astronauts launching into the stars, and vibrant celebrations of life. But just as quickly, darkness encroached. The fall of civilizations, the destruction of ecosystems, and the haunting emptiness of abandoned cities. It was a whirlwind of emotion, and each image stirred something deep within them. What are we witnessing?" Mira breathed, her eyes wide. "Human history," Ilara replied, her voice barely a whisper. "But how could they have created such a legacy, and yet be forgotten?" The projections began to settle on a single image, a mural depicting a group of humans standing together, united against a backdrop of cosmic chaos. It was a powerful symbol of resilience. Ilara felt a pang of recognition. There was something inherently familiar about the scene, as if it resonated with her own beliefs about unity and diversity. As the holograms flickered and faded, a tense silence fell over the room. The implications of their discovery loomed large. Were humans merely a footnote in the galaxy's history, or could they hold the key to a new understanding among the civilizations of the universe? Just then, a warning alarm blared, jolting the team from their reverie. Cal's fingers flew over the controls. "We've got incoming ships, lots of them. We need to move now." Ilara's heart raced as she glanced at the glowing device. "They know we found something. We can't let it fall into the wrong hands." The team scrambled into action, fear igniting their adrenaline. They had unearthed a piece of the galaxy's forgotten history, and now They were faced with the grim reality that some would do anything to keep it buried. The ship's engines roared to life as Dr. Ilara Voss and her team scrambled to prepare for departure. The alarms blared relentlessly, echoing in the cramped quarters of the spacecraft. Cal, still at the controls, fought to stabilize their ascent while scanning for the incoming vessels. The flickering screens displayed red blips converging rapidly on their position. "Get us out of here, Cal. Now," Ilara shouted, gripping the edge of her seat. Her heart raced as she glanced at Mira, who was frozen in shock beside her. "I'm trying," Cal replied, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. "But they're jamming our comms. We can't warn the others." Suddenly, a violent jolt rocked the ship as a laser blast struck the hull. Alarms intensified, and Cal struggled to keep the ship steady. "We've got to breach the atmosphere before they get a lock on us." With a deep breath, Ilara focused on the task at hand. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. We need to shake them off our tail." As the ship lurched upward, Mira's eyes caught the glowing device sitting ominously on the control panel. "What if it can help us? Maybe there's something in there that can turn the tide." "Not now, Mira," Ilara snapped, but the urgency in her voice was tempered with fear. They were racing against time, and the stakes had never been higher. Ignoring the growing chaos, Mira reached for the device, her fingers dancing over the glyphs as she searched for anything that could aid their escape. "I can read some of these symbols," she exclaimed. "If I can unlock its functions." Before she could finish, another blast rocked the ship. The lights flickered, and the crew was thrown against the walls. Ilara's stomach lurched, but she steadied herself. "Mira, focus. We need to stabilize first. Then we can see what that thing can do." Just as they cleared the atmosphere, the ship shuddered violently as the pursuing vessels breached the planet's surface. Cal's voice broke through the din of alarms. "They're on our tail. I'm activating shields, but they won't hold forever." In a moment of desperation, Mira's eyes flared with determination. "Let me try." She positioned herself at the device, pulling it closer. The ship rattled as she began pressing the glyphs again, and to everyone's surprise, the device responded with a surge of energy. Holographic displays flared to life, showing schematics of advanced technology and energy signatures that resonated with the ship's systems. "What are you doing?" Ilara asked, her voice incredulous. "I think it's a power source. If I can reroute its energy." Mira's fingers flew over the surface, her eyes locked in concentration. As she worked, the energy from the device began to pulse in sync with the ship's engines, creating a vibrant blue aura that wrapped around them like a shield. "Cal, how's our speed?" Ilara shouted. "Working on it," he yelled back. The ship's systems struggled, but slowly the vibrations steadied. "We're gaining speed, but we're still targeted. Just hold on." Mira gritted her teeth, pouring her focus into the device. The ship began to hum with power, and Ilara could feel the vibrations shifting. They were gaining momentum, but the enemy ships were relentless, firing another barrage. Suddenly, the device projected a holographic map of the surrounding space, highlighting potential escape routes. "I think it's showing us a safe path," Mira exclaimed. "If we take a hard right at the asteroid field, we might lose them." "Cal, plot a course," Ilara commanded, her heart pounding with hope. "I'm on it," Cal responded, his fingers moving deftly over the controls. The ship veered sharply, entering the chaotic expanse of the asteroid belt. Rocks of varying sizes floated dangerously close, but their size provided the perfect cover. As they navigated the treacherous terrain, Ilara felt a flicker of confidence. "Keep the shields up, and don't let them lock on." Cal's voice held a hint of excitement. "We're pulling away. The asteroids are throwing them off course." Mira's eyes sparkled as she adjusted the device again, sending a surge of energy that enhanced their shields even further. The enemy ships struggled to keep pace, their lasers firing wildly as they tried to follow. Ilara couldn't help but smile as the distance between them and their pursuers widened. "You did it, Mira. We just might make it." But just as victory seemed within reach, a sudden jolt sent the ship spiraling. One of the enemy ships had found a way around the asteroids, firing at point-blank range. Alarms blared once more, and the energy from the device flickered. "Mira, do something," Ilara shouted, fear gripping her heart. With determination, Mira focused intently on the device. "If I can amplify its power one last time." As the enemy ship closed in, she pressed the final glyph, unleashing a brilliant pulse of energy. The ship surged forward, and the energy field expanded, creating a shockwave that sent the pursuing vessel spiraling off course. The team cheered, the thrill of escape washing over them as they raced into the safety of deep space. But amidst the exhilaration, Ilara's mind raced. They had uncovered a fragment of human legacy, but now they were deeper in a conflict that threatened not just their lives, but the future of knowledge itself. "What have we awakened?" she whispered, glancing at the device, its glow steady and bright, a reminder of the ancient civilization they had only begun to understand. As the adrenaline from their narrow escape began to fade, the ship hummed with a tense energy. Dr. Ilara Voss leaned over the control panel, scanning for any signs of pursuit. Cal worked diligently at the navigation console, attempting to chart a course away from Kareth 7 and its dark secrets. "We need to find a safe place to regroup and analyze what we've discovered," Ilara said, glancing at Mira, who was still captivated by the glowing device. Mira nodded, her fingers tracing the glyphs as if they held answers. "This device, it's more than just a power source. It could hold knowledge about human technology, something we haven't seen in millennia. Knowledge that others want to keep buried," Cal interjected, worry creeping into his voice. "If the Syndicate is as ruthless as they seem, we can't let them catch us again." Ilara felt a chill at the thought. "We'll head to the safe zone on Tyrannus IV. It's a mining colony, but it should offer enough cover for us to lay low while we analyze the device." As they plotted their course, the tension in the cabin thickened. Despite their temporary victory, the reality of their situation weighed heavily on them. Mira, with her eyes still fixed on the device, looked up suddenly. "What if it can help us defend ourselves? We have to figure out how it works before the Syndicate strikes again." "Agreed," Ilara replied, her determination rekindled. "Let's split our efforts. Cal, keep an eye on our surroundings and maintain a low profile. Mira and I will dive into the device's capabilities." As they approached Tyrannus IV, the planet appeared as a swirling mass of browns and greens, dotted with industrial structures and bustling activity. They landed on the outskirts, where the towering mines cast long shadows over the rocky terrain. After securing the ship, the team made their way to a small, unassuming warehouse they had rented for their stay. Inside, Ilara and Mira set the device on a makeshift table, illuminating the dim room with its eerie glow. "Let's start with what we know," Ilara said, pulling up holographic projections of the earlier findings. "The device seems to connect to human history, technology, and perhaps even military strategies. If we can tap into that, it might provide us an edge against the Syndicate." As they delved into the holograms, Mira's fingers flew over the glyphs, attempting to decipher their meanings. "Look at this sequence," she pointed out, her eyes alight with enthusiasm. "It's a blueprint. It's detailing some sort of defensive technology, energy shields, weaponry, even advanced propulsion systems." Ilara's heart raced. "If we can replicate even a fraction of this technology, we could turn the tide. But we need to be cautious. The Syndicate could be watching." Suddenly, Cal burst into the room, panic etched on his face. "We've got company. Multiple ships are heading our way. They must have tracked us here. Damn it." Ilara swore under her breath. "Mira, can you do anything with the device to help us?" Mira's eyes darted back to the glowing artifact. "I can try to enhance the ship's shields or create a distraction, but I'll need a few minutes." Do it, Ilara shouted, adrenaline surging. Cal, prep the ship for immediate takeoff. We'll have to get out of here as soon as Mira is ready. Cal nodded, rushing back to the ship's controls while Ilara returned to Mira's side. Focus on the defensive capabilities. We need to hold them off long enough to escape. Mira closed her eyes, immersing herself in the device's energy. The air hummed with potential as she concentrated. The device responded, its glow intensifying. I think I can create an energy field around the ship, she murmured, sweat beading on her brow. It should confuse their targeting systems. Outside, the sounds of approaching ships grew louder, reverberating through the warehouse. Ilara felt the weight of their impending doom pressing down on her. We need to hurry. Just then, the walls shook with the blast of incoming fire. Cal's voice echoed through the comms. They're here. I see at least 3 syndicate ships hovering above us. Mira, now. Ilara urged, her heart racing as Mira unleashed a surge of energy from the device. A shimmering barrier enveloped the ship, flickering as it absorbed the first wave of laser fire. Let's move, Ilara shouted, grabbing Mira's arm and leading her toward the ship. They dashed through the narrow corridors of the warehouse, the blasts growing closer. As they reached the ship, Cal was already at the controls. Get in. We don't have much time. With a final push, Ilara and Mira clambered aboard. Engage the shields, Ilara commanded as they buckled in. The ship lurched as Cal initiated the engines, but another blast shook them violently. I'm working on it, he yelled, gritting his teeth. Mira's fingers were still pressed against the device, feeding it energy. It's stabilizing, she gasped. Cal pulled hard on the controls, and the ship jolted forward, breaking free from the warehouse just as the syndicate ships opened fire. The energy field flickered but held, deflecting the incoming blasts as they soared into the skies above Tyrannus IV. Head for the asteroid belt, Ilara shouted. We'll lose them in the debris. On it, Cal replied, his face set with determination. As they navigated the treacherous field, Ilara felt a mix of dread and exhilaration. They were now fugitives in a galaxy that seemed intent on erasing humanity's legacy. Yet deep within her, a spark ignited. They had something powerful on their side, an ancient civilization's wisdom that might just change the course of their destiny. The ship zipped through the asteroid belt, rocks of varying sizes flashing past in a chaotic dance. Ilara held her breath, watching as Cal expertly maneuvered the vessel through the narrow gaps, the syndicate ships trailing closely behind. The tension in the cockpit was palpable. Every jolt and bump sent adrenaline coursing through their veins. We need to create more distance, Ilara urged, glancing at Mira, who was still focused on the device pulsating with energy. Can you do anything to help us? Mira nodded, determination etched on her face. If I can tap deeper into the device, I might be able to amplify the shields or generate a localized gravitational distortion. It could throw them off our trail. Then do it, Ilara shouted, feeling the weight of their predicament. Just keep us steady, Cal. With a deep breath, Mira placed her hands on the device, her fingers brushing the glowing glyphs. The moment she touched it, the ship trembled as energy surged through the control systems. Holographic projections flared to life, revealing a vast array of human technology, some familiar, others alien even to her trained eyes. Look at this, she exclaimed, her eyes widening. These schematics, they depict a gravitational pulse generator. If I can unlock its full potential, we can create a shockwave that disrupts their targeting systems. Can you do it fast? Ilara pressed, aware of the urgency of their situation. I'll try, Mira replied, her voice steady but tinged with intensity. As the syndicate ships closed in, a blast grazed their hull, causing the ship to lurch violently. Cal gripped the controls tightly. I can't keep this up much longer. Mira, Ilara urged, feeling the stakes rise. Focus. With a fierce determination, Mira's brow furrowed in concentration. The device glowed brighter, enveloping her in a soft blue light. She began to chant the symbols she had been deciphering, feeling their energy pulse in sync with her own. Outside, the pursuing ships coordinated their attacks, firing in unison. The ship shook again as another blast struck, sending alarms blaring throughout the cockpit. "We're losing shield integrity," Cal shouted, panic creeping into his voice. "Now, Mira," Ilara implored. In a burst of focused energy, Mira activated the device, unleashing a brilliant shockwave. The ship trembled as the gravitational distortion rippled outward, disrupting the Syndicate ship's systems. The pursuing vessels veered off course, their targeting locks failing as they struggled to regain control. "Nice work," Ilara cheered, but her relief was short-lived. "Let's get out of here." Cal punched the throttle, pushing the ship deeper into the asteroid belt. They weaved between massive rocks, the thrusters roaring as they navigated the perilous terrain. For a moment, it seemed they had escaped, but the tension in the air remained thick. As they settled into a hidden cove within the belt, Ilara let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. "We did it. For now." Mira, still catching her breath, looked at the device, which now emitted a steady hum. "We have to keep it safe. It's our only chance to understand what happened to humanity." "But we need to find out how it works," Ilara said, her mind racing. "What else does it contain? If we can unlock its full potential, we could change everything." Cal leaned back in his seat, his expression a mix of awe and exhaustion. "We need to regroup. If we're going to go after the Syndicate, we have to be prepared. We can't rely on luck anymore." Ilara nodded, taking charge of the situation. "Let's take stock of what we have. Mira, can you dive deeper into the device's schematics? I want to know if there are any other functions we can utilize." Mira nodded, her enthusiasm returning. "I'll do my best. If this thing holds any more secrets, I'm going to find them." As the ship drifted silently in the depths of the asteroid belt, Ilara began to feel the weight of their situation settle in. They were on the brink of something monumental, yet the Syndicate was relentless. If they were going to stand a chance, they needed allies and knowledge, two things they were sorely lacking. Suddenly, Mira looked up from the device, her face alight with excitement. "Ilara, I think I've found something. There are recordings, videos from human history embedded in here. This could provide critical insights into human technology and strategies." "Can you access them?" Ilara asked, her heart racing with hope. "Yes, but it'll take some time. The files are encrypted," Mira replied, her fingers dancing over the glyphs again. "But if I can decrypt this, it could reveal everything from military tactics to advanced engineering." Cal's eyes lit up. "That could give us an edge against the Syndicate. If we can understand how humans once defended themselves, then we'll be ready," Ilara finished, her resolve solidifying. As Mira worked on decrypting the data, Ilara's mind raced with possibilities. They had discovered a treasure trove of knowledge, and with it, the potential to reclaim humanity's place in the galaxy. Yet, in the shadows, the Syndicate lurked, ready to strike again. But this time, they wouldn't be caught off guard. With a combination of ancient wisdom and their own ingenuity, they would fight back, united by a legacy it refused to be forgotten. The ship nestled in the depths of the asteroid belt, hidden among the rocky outcrops, as Mira immersed herself in the glowing device. The tension in the cockpit had shifted from a frenzied escape to a quiet anticipation, each crew member aware of the monumental task at hand. Ilara paced, her thoughts racing through strategies, while Cal monitored the scanners for any sign of the Syndicate's return. "Mira, how's it coming?" Ilara asked, leaning over the device. The intricate glyphs shimmered as Mira worked, her brow furrowed in concentration. "I'm getting closer," Mira replied, her voice steady yet focused. "The encryption is complex, but I can feel the flow of information. It's like piecing together a puzzle." Cal leaned in, intrigued. What kind of information are you finding? Military tactics, engineering techniques, even social structures, Mira explained, her fingers dancing across the surface. This civilization was more advanced than we imagined. They had strategies for warfare that integrated technology with human psychology. Ilara nodded, excitement bubbling within her. If we can harness any of this knowledge, we'll be able to counter the Syndicate's advances. But we'll need more than just information. We need allies. Agreed, Cal replied, glancing at the control panel. But where do we even start? We can't trust just anyone after this. Mira looked up, her eyes sparkling with inspiration. What about the underground networks? There are factions across the galaxy that oppose the Syndicate. If we can get in touch with them, we could form an alliance. Ilara's heart raced. That's a brilliant idea. If we can present our findings and rally support, we might just have a chance. Let's move quickly, Cal urged. We should reach out before the Syndicate regroups. They won't stop hunting us. As Mira returned to her work, Ilara and Cal began to strategize their next steps. They needed to connect with a network that could provide not just information, but support in the form of ships, weaponry, and tactical expertise. Hours passed as Mira decrypted file after file, her enthusiasm infectious. Finally, she leaned back, eyes wide. I think I found something significant. There's a hidden file about a resistance group on Hesperia Prime, a planet with a strong anti-Syndicate sentiment. If we can reach them, they might help us. Ilara felt a spark of hope. Let's make the jump to Hesperia. We'll gather supplies and try to forge an alliance. Cal, plot a course. As the ship propelled into hyperspace, the crew prepared for the challenges ahead. Ilara found herself reflecting on the device and its importance. It wasn't just a relic, it was a symbol of what humanity could become again. Arriving at Hesperia Prime, the bustling planet was a stark contrast to the barren solitude of Kareth 7. The atmosphere was alive with energy, protests against the Syndicate's rule echoing in the streets. Ships filled the sky, and Ilara could sense the urgency in the air. They landed discreetly on the outskirts of a bustling market, quickly disembarking. Ilara felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension as they stepped onto the vibrant streets. The air was thick with tension, but also with the hope of resistance. Stay close, Ilara instructed, scanning the crowd. We don't know who we can trust here. As they navigated through the throngs of people, they were approached by a wiry man with a distinctive scar across his cheek. You're the ones the Syndicate is after, he said, his voice low and urgent. I've heard whispers of your discovery. Ilara exchanged glances with Cal and Mira. Who are you? She asked, her defenses up. Name's Jarek. I'm with the Hesperian Resistance, he replied, glancing around to ensure they weren't being overheard. We've been tracking your movements. Word is you found something big, something the Syndicate would kill to get their hands on. Yes, Ilara confirmed, her heart pounding. We've unearthed a device that holds knowledge of an ancient human civilization. We need your help to fight back. Jarek's eyes lit up with interest. Then you're in the right place. We've been waiting for something like this. If we can unite our forces, we might stand a chance against the Syndicate. Can you introduce us to your leaders? Cal asked, his voice steady. Follow me, Jarek replied, leading them through the winding alleys of the market. As they walked, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She glanced back, scanning the crowd for any signs of Syndicate agents. Finally, they reached a nondescript building at the edge of the market. Inside, the atmosphere was charged with urgency. Several individuals huddled around a central table, poring over maps and data. Everyone, listen up, Jarek called out, drawing their attention. We have guests. Dr. Ilara Voss and her team. They found something the Syndicate wants desperately, and they need our help. The room buzzed with energy, eyes wide with curiosity and skepticism. Ilara stepped forward, her resolve strong. We've uncovered a device that holds crucial information about humanity's legacy, military strategies, technological advancements, and a chance for us to reclaim our place in the galaxy. A woman with fierce eyes and a commanding presence spoke up. "What do you propose?" "We need to unite our forces," Ilara replied. "If we can combine our knowledge and resources, we can launch a counteroffensive against the Syndicate. We have a chance to fight back, but we need your support." As the discussions intensified, Ilara felt a flicker of hope. They were no longer alone in this fight. Together, they could forge an alliance that might change the course of their destiny. And as the room filled with voices of agreement and plans being formed, she realized that they had awakened something powerful. A coalition built on the shared belief that the legacy of humanity would not be forgotten. The atmosphere in the dimly lit room crackled with energy as Ilara and her team laid out their plans before the Hesperian resistance. The flickering lights illuminated a map of the galaxy, dotted with the positions of Syndicate strongholds and potential targets. "First, we need to assess their capabilities," Ilara said, pointing to a cluster of red markers indicating Syndicate ships. "They've got a heavy presence near the industrial sectors of Hesperia, but we can exploit their weaknesses." Jarek leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "We've been tracking their movements. They're spread thin in some areas, but their command ships are well guarded. We need to hit them where it hurts, disrupt their supply lines and communication." Cal nodded, a spark of excitement igniting within him. "We can use the device to gather intelligence on their operations. If Mira can decode more of its capabilities, we might be able to launch targeted strikes." Mira, energized by the prospect of action, spoke up. "I can try to create a holographic projection of their communications. If we can intercept their signals, we'll gain valuable intel and confuse their command structure." The woman who had initially questioned Ilara, now identified as Commander Elin, crossed her arms. "We need a detailed plan. This isn't just a skirmish. We're going to provoke them. What's your timeline?" Ilara exchanged glances with her team, feeling the weight of the moment. "We need to act quickly. The Syndicate won't sit back and let us organize. If we can get the intel from the device in the next few days, we can coordinate a strike against their supply lines. Simultaneously, we'll need to mobilize your forces." Elin nodded, her expression serious. "I can gather our troops, but we'll need a demonstration of the device's power, something that shows we're serious. If we can make a statement, it will rally more support." "What do you have in mind?" Cal asked. "We have a munitions depot at the edge of the city," Jarek interjected. "It's a vulnerable target for the Syndicate, but we can make it look like a rebellion is brewing. If we hit it hard and fast, it'll send a message." Ilara's mind raced with possibilities. "We can use the device to amplify our attack. If Mira can enhance our weapons or create a diversion, we can maximize the impact." As they finalized their strategy, Ilara felt a sense of unity forming among the group. They were no longer a disparate collection of individuals. They were becoming a coalition, a force ready to challenge their oppressors. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Ilara, Cal, and Mira worked tirelessly to decode the device's capabilities, while Jarek and Commander Elin mobilized the Hesperian forces. As the plan solidified, a palpable sense of determination spread through the resistance. Mira's fingers danced across the device as they prepared for their first mission. "I think I can create a field that enhances our weaponry. It'll provide an energy boost, increasing the lethality of our strikes." "Do it," Ilara urged. "We'll need every advantage we can get." As the day of their operation approached, Ilara felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. They were on the brink of something monumental, yet the stakes had never been higher. The fate of their rebellion, and perhaps the future of humanity, hung in the balance. On the night before the strike, Ilara gathered with Jarek, Cal, and Mira in a secluded corner of the Resistance hideout. The air was thick with anticipation. "We'll hit the depot at dawn," Jarek said, his voice low but firm. "Our forces will create a diversion, drawing attention away from the main attack. Once we strike, We'll have a small window before the syndicate can regroup. Stay sharp, Ilara added, her eyes scanning the group. This will be our first major confrontation. We need to be coordinated and decisive. Mira took a deep breath, a mix of nerves and excitement. I'll activate the device right before the strike. It'll amplify our weapons and create an energy field that should confuse their targeting systems. Cal nodded, his face determined. We're ready. We've trained for this moment, and we have the element of surprise on our side. As they exchanged final thoughts, Ilara felt a surge of hope. For the first time in a long while, she sensed a path forward, a chance to reclaim their legacy and assert humanity's place in the galaxy. As dawn broke over Hesperia Prime, casting golden light on the city, the Resistance prepared for their assault. The streets buzzed with anticipation as fighters gathered, ready to take a stand against their oppressors. Let's do this, Ilara said, rallying her team. For humanity. With that, they moved out, hearts pounding with a shared resolve. The time had come to show the Syndicate that humanity would no longer be overlooked or forgotten. They were ready to fight back, and they would do it together. The first rays of dawn illuminated the city of Hesperia Prime, casting long shadows over the Resistance fighters gathered near the munitions depot. Ilara stood at the forefront, her heart racing with anticipation. The air crackled with tension, a mixture of fear and determination hanging over the crowd. Remember our roles, Jarek shouted, his voice carrying over the murmurs. Stay focused and follow the plan. We hit hard and fast. Ilara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. This was it, their chance to send a powerful message to the Syndicate. She glanced at Mira and Cal, who stood beside her, their expressions resolute. Are you ready? She asked, meeting their eyes. Ready as we'll ever be, Cal replied, clenching his fists. Mira nodded, clutching the device tightly. Let's make history. As the sun crested the horizon, Jarek signaled the start of their assault. Resistance fighters moved swiftly, fanning out to take their positions. Ilara felt the adrenaline surge as she and her team joined the fray, racing toward the depot. From their vantage point, the depot appeared imposing, a fortress guarded by Syndicate soldiers and automated defenses. The sounds of industry echoed through the air, but beneath that, Ilara could sense the tension of impending conflict. Now, Jarek yelled, and the fighters unleashed a barrage of firepower. Explosions lit up the area as the first wave of attacks struck, sending Syndicate guards scrambling for cover. Ilara raised her weapon, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Mira, activate the device. With a flick of her wrist, Mira triggered the device, and a radiant energy field enveloped their position. The air shimmered, distorting the view of the battlefield. Ilara felt a surge of energy as their weapons powered up, the enhanced projectiles bursting forth with newfound ferocity. Let's move, Ilara shouted, charging forward alongside Cal and Mira. They raced toward the nearest entrance, weaving through the chaos as the Syndicate forces struggled to regroup. As they neared the depot, Ilara saw a squad of Syndicate soldiers taking aim, their weapons poised to fire. Duck, she yelled, and they hit the ground just as a hail of blaster fire erupted overhead. Mira's device pulsed with energy, creating a protective barrier that absorbed the incoming shots. We're safe. Go, go, she urged, her eyes fierce with determination. They charged into the fray, the sounds of battle roaring around them. Ilara could feel the momentum shifting in their favor. Resistance fighters moved like a well-oiled machine, taking down guards and breaching the depot's defenses. Inside, the layout was chaotic, with crates stacked high and corridors branching off in every direction. Ilara could see their goal, a massive control center at the far end where they could disable the depot's operations. Over there, Cal pointed, leading the way as they pushed through the chaos. Ilara felt the exhilaration of the moment, the thrill of fighting for something greater than themselves. They rounded a corner and burst into the control center, where a handful of Syndicate officers scrambled to react. Ilara and her team moved quickly, taking out the guards with practiced efficiency. "Get to the main console," Ilara ordered. "We need to shut this place down." Mira rushed to the console, her fingers flying over the controls as she tapped into the device's knowledge. "I can override the systems, but I'll need a minute." "Hold them off," Cal shouted, taking position near the entrance, weapon raised. The remaining Syndicate soldiers rallied, pouring into the room. The air thickened with tension as blaster fire erupted, ricocheting off walls and crates. Ilara positioned herself beside Cal, firing into the fray, her heart pounding in her chest. "Come on, Mira," Ilara urged, feeling the pressure mount. "We can't hold them off forever." "I'm almost there," Mira shouted, her concentration unwavering as she channeled the device's energy into the control systems. Ilara took a deep breath, focusing on the fight. She felt a sense of purpose driving her. This was more than just a battle. It was a fight for the legacy of humanity. She glanced at Cal, who gave her a determined nod. "Ready for this?" he asked, a grin breaking through the tension. "Always," Ilara replied, her resolve hardening. Suddenly, Mira's voice rang out, filled with triumph. "I'd done it. The systems are shutting down." Alarms blared throughout the depot, red lights flashing as the power began to flicker. The Syndicate soldiers hesitated, their confidence shaken by the sudden turn of events. "Now push them back," Ilara commanded, rallying the resistance fighters. "Let's show them we won't back down." With renewed vigor, they surged forward, driving the Syndicate forces into retreat. Ilara felt the tide turning, the power of unity and determination surging through them. As the last of the guards fled, Ilara and her team stood in the control center, catching their breath. The sound of victory echoed in their hearts, but they knew the fight wasn't over. They had made a statement, but the Syndicate would respond, and they had to be ready. Ilara glanced at Mira, who was still by the console. "What now?" Mira smiled, a mix of exhilaration and fatigue. "Now we gather what we can from this facility. There's bound to be data we can use against them." "Let's move," Jarek urged, gathering the resistance fighters. "We need to regroup and plan our next steps." As they collected supplies and data from the control center, Ilara felt a flicker of hope. They had struck a blow against the Syndicate, and with each victory, they were reclaiming their legacy. Together, they were not just fighting for survival. They were forging the new future for humanity, one battle at a time. The munitions depot lay in disarray, remnants of the battle scattered across the floor. Ilara surveyed the chaos, her heart racing with a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. They had dealt a significant blow to the Syndicate, but she knew they were only at the beginning of a much larger fight. "Gather everything you can," Jarek instructed the resistance fighters as they sifted through crates and terminals. "We need intel and resources for our next move." Ilara joined Mira at a console, the device pulsing softly beside them. "What did you manage to download?" she asked, urgency threading her voice. Mira's fingers flew over the controls, bringing up holographic displays filled with data. "I accessed their operational files. There's a trove of information about their supply routes, troop movements, and even plans for future operations. This could give us the edge we need." "Perfect," Ilara replied, her excitement palpable. "Let's organize it and share it with the rest of the resistance. We need to be ready for their retaliation." As they worked, the atmosphere in the control center shifted from one of frantic urgency to cautious optimism. The resistance fighters rallied around them, their spirits bolstered by the success of their assault. Ilara could feel the tide of morale rising, but she also sensed the weight of the responsibility they bore. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the depot, shattering the momentary peace. "What now?" Cal exclaimed, scanning the room. "Reinforcements," Jarek said grimly, his eyes narrowing. "We need to evacuate, now." Ilara felt her stomach drop. They had to move quickly if they wanted to escape. "Mira, can you finish organizing the data on the run?" "I'll do my best," Mira replied, determination etched on her face. "Cal, cover our exit," Ilara commanded, her mind racing. "We can't let them trap us in here." As they gathered their supplies, Cal positioned himself at the door, his weapon aimed down the corridor. "I'll hold them off as long as I can. Just go." Ilara hesitated, torn between the urgency of their escape and her instinct to protect her team. "We can't leave you." "There's no time," Cal shouted. "Get to safety. I'll follow as soon as I can." Ilara's heart raced as she nodded, knowing he was right. "Let's go," she yelled, leading Mira and Jarek through a side exit. They navigated the darkened corridors, the alarms still wailing in the distance. Ilara felt the weight of their mission pressing down on her. They had made strides, but they were far from safe. "Which way?" Jarek asked, glancing at the flickering lights overhead. "Through the loading bay," Ilara decided, her instincts guiding her. "We should be able to find an escape route there." As they rushed toward the loading bay, they could hear the sound of approaching boots echoing down the hall. Ilara's pulse quickened, her mind racing as she pushed forward. "Almost there," she urged, her voice a mix of hope and desperation. They burst into the loading bay, a cavernous space filled with crates and machinery. Ilara scanned the area, looking for a way out. Just as they turned a corner, a squad of Syndicate soldiers entered from the opposite side. "Down!" Jarek yelled, and they ducked behind a stack of crates as blaster fire erupted around them. Mira's device pulsed with energy, illuminating their hiding spot. "If I can just—" she started, but Ilara cut her off. "No time. We need to create a distraction," Ilara said, her mind racing. "Mira, can you amplify the device's energy to create a diversion?" "I can try," Mira replied, her fingers flying over the device's controls. "It will take a moment to charge." "Cal, cover her," Ilara commanded, adrenaline surging through her veins. Cal nodded, positioning himself to face the incoming soldiers. "Just hurry up." As Mira concentrated on the device, Ilara took a deep breath, focusing on the task at hand. They were fighting for their lives, for the chance to continue their mission. They couldn't let fear overcome them. Finally, the device began to hum, a bright light emanating from it. "It's ready," Mira shouted. "Get back." Ilara pushed Mira and Jarek behind cover as Cal fired at the advancing Syndicate troops. Just as the soldiers closed in, Mira unleashed the energy from the device, creating a blinding flash that filled the loading bay. "Now!" Ilara yelled, and they bolted for the nearest exit, sprinting through the disorienting light. As they burst outside, the morning sun struck them like a wave of warmth. They stumbled onto a deserted alley, the sounds of chaos fading behind them. "Where do we go now?" Jarek gasped, catching his breath. Ilara scanned the area, her mind racing. "We need to regroup with the others and share what we've learned. The Syndicate will come after us, and we need to be ready." Mira nodded, clutching the device close. "I have all the data we need. We just have to find a secure place to plan our next move." As they made their way through the winding streets, Ilara felt a sense of determination washing over her. They had faced overwhelming odds and emerged stronger. Despite the dangers ahead, she knew one thing for certain. They were no longer a forgotten ancient race. They were warriors, united in their fight for the future of humanity. And they would not back down. Together, they would reclaim their legacy and reshape the galaxy.